The station on your side. This is Wavy News 10.
A deadly terror attack in a mall in Kenya.
We stood up and we started to turn, and then there was a second. Then we heard machine guns, and then we started to run.
And a local woman at the center of it all. Hear how she came face to face with the gunman and survived. Protecting your belongings, how police in Newport News are helping you get back your cars from thieves. Plus, pirates on the peninsula trying to break a world record. Our top story tonight is the weather. Rain is falling across parts of our area. Let's take a live look outside from Tower Cam 10. There's a lot of color on the radar. Meteorologist Tiffany Savona is here with what you can expect in your neighborhoods. Hey, Tiffany.
Hey, Ann, the rain has really become more widespread. I just stepped outside a little bit ago, and some very light rain falling in Portsmouth as of this time, but we have some heavier rain starting to push onto the peninsula. So we'll take a little radar tour here with Super Doppler 10 live, and you can see we have steady rain falling along the eastern shore from Chincoteague down through Melfa, Exmoor, Cape Charles. A little bit of a heavier rain just to the north of Melfa, and we've seen the rain across the northern neck and across the middle peninsula for the past few hours. So some heavy rain starting to push into Gloucester Point, and also some heavier rain pushing into Lee Hall, Beachmont, also into Oyster Point, and this heavier rain will push onto I-64 and into Newport News very shortly. We're seeing lighter rain from Poquoson down toward Hampton and even across some of our western counties. Notice that there's a burst of heavy rain in Franklin, also some heavier rain headed toward the Smithfield area. This will continue to push off to the north and east. Steady rain in Suffolk, and that rain finally pushing into Portsmouth, Norfolk, and Chesapeake, and that light rain is going to continue to push into Virginia Beach. We're continuing to see the steady rain across northeastern North Carolina, mainly from Ahoskie to Sunbury, Coral Peak, and Elizabeth City, and that rain will continue to push eastward over the next few hours. Temperatures are into the upper 60s, lower 70s, and that's where they'll stay tonight. We'll drop into the mid to upper 60s by tomorrow morning. So here are your rain chances overnight, about 80% midnight, 80% chance through 3 a.m., and then those rain chances start to drop off as we head into tomorrow afternoon. We are going to be cooler on Sunday. We'll talk more about that cool down coming up.
New at 11, a deadly terror attack at a mall in Kenya, and a local woman was caught in the middle. Gunmen stormed the Westgate Mall in Nairobi. At least 39 people died, 150 were injured. The U.S. State Department says they have several reports of several Americans injured in this attack. A militant Islamic group, Al-Shabaab, claimed responsibility for the attack. Officials think the mall was targeted because it's an upscale part of the city and it's popular with Westerners. An Elizabeth City woman was trapped inside that mall during the attack. She saw the gunman running in and quickly found a place to hide. It was hours before she was able to contact her mother back here at home on Skype. 10 Your Side's Lauren Compton also spoke to her on Skype today. And Lauren, how did she manage to survive?
And she and about a dozen others barricaded themselves in a store until they were rescued. Bendita Malakia is working in Kenya with a financial company. She was out to lunch with a friend when the gunman came barging in. These few words.
It said, "Dad, this is Bendita in an active shooter situation at Westgate Mall."
That's all Lou Malakia knew about her daughter, who was trapped in a shooting rampage at this mall in Nairobi, Kenya.
I was scared to death that I was going to get a call saying that she was dead.
Her daughter, 30-year-old Bendita Malakia, says the gunman barged in the terrace where she was eating and started shooting.
We stood up and we started to turn, and then there was a second. Then we heard machine guns, and then we started to run, and there was a second explosion which knocked us on the ground.
Malakia and her friend made it inside a store where dozens of people were hiding, hoping the gunshots wouldn't come their way.
You could hear, while we were back there, them methodically kind of going from store to store, talking to people, asking questions, shooting, screams, and then it would stop for a while, and then they would go to another store.
After more than 4 hours, Malakia and the others were rescued by American security forces and the Kenyan Army, only to be tear-gassed in the street.
And we were about to walk up the street to the car, and then we heard 2 bombs. And so that was when we had our freak out cry moment in the street. And we jumped into this kind of empty ambulance.
Malakia Skyped with her mom once she made it to safety, who was terrified to hear what her daughter had lived through.
And she says in between times, you could hear people that had been shot, that was in pain. You could hear that, she said.
Malakia won't let herself feel the hurt, the pain, or the terror she felt inside this mall. Only gratitude that these words weren't the last ones she shared with her mother.
It was completely luck because we're on the ground floor and easily accessible. So I think part of it was luck. We did a lot of praying in there and we stayed calm.
Malakia told 10 on Your Side it seemed like the gunmen were targeting non-Muslims. From inside the store, she could hear the gunmen asking people if they were Muslim or not. She plans to come visit her family next month. In the newsroom, Lauren Compton, 10 on Your Side.
Here's some information about Al-Shabaab. That group is based in southern Somalia and linked to Al-Qaeda. 2 years ago, Kenya sent troops to fight the Islamic insurgents. Since then, Al-Shabaab has threatened to retaliate. In 2008, the U.S. Council on Foreign Relations designated Al-Shabaab as a terrorist organization. The group claimed responsibility for the July 2010 suicide bombings in Uganda, which killed more than 70 people watching a World Cup soccer match. In Norfolk, police have a man in custody accused of crashing into cars while running from officers. It happened last night around 9:30 near Norview Avenue and Alexander Street. Officers were investigating a domestic dispute. They say the man jumped in a car and took off. He crashed into several other vehicles, including some police cars, then got out of his car and ran. Officers caught up with him pretty quickly. New details on a story we first brought you earlier this week. Virginia Beach officials say that 33-year-old Neil Medore from Ontario, Canada, died in a possible drowning at the oceanfront. Medore was swimming when family and friends on the beach noticed he stopped moving. Paramedics pulled him from the water and he was pronounced dead at the hospital. Newport News police want to help you protect your personal belongings from thieves. They held an event today to teach people how to mark their vehicles and electronics like cell phones, GPS devices, and laptops. Detectives say the information will help them track stolen property and catch the thieves that took it.
All this equipment is provided to us by the State Police HEAT program. So they give it to us free of charge. That means that we can give it to the citizens of Newport News free of charge, or the citizens of Hampton Roads. So it's a free service, it's proactive, it's a way to help with auto theft.
In case you missed today's event, there are 3 more scheduled each month till the end of the year. Log on to wavy.com for more information on when those events are planned. Next, Pirates pack the park at the Mariners Museum. Hear if they beat the world record. And ribs, ribs, and more ribs will take you to Norfolk, where barbecue lovers ruled the day.
You're watching Wavy News 10 at 11, live from the station on your side.
This is a fun story. Thousands of pirates invaded the Mariners Museum in Newport News today. Wavy TV was a proud sponsor of Pirates Pack the Park. Thousands of pirates were needed to take the Guinness World Record for the largest pirate gathering away from the British. The goal was more than 14,000 pirates, but we have some bad news. They had more than enough people show up, but only about half of them were dressed as pirates technically, so they fell short of the record. If you want to see more of today's awesome costumes and pirates, log on to wavy.com. Brews and barbecue were a perfect pair for the inaugural Ribtoberfest in Norfolk. Festival goers enjoyed blues music while foodies sampled ribs and fall craft beers at Town Point Park. 10 Your Side's Chris Reckling had the tough job of judging who had the best ribs in Hampton Roads. The winner is Belmont House of Smoke in Norfolk. They won $500 for that top prize and title, and we have more from today's Ribtoberfest online. That's at wavy.com. Another budget battle in the nation's capital next. Why lawmakers must come up with a spending plan by the end of this month. Here's the 10 on Your Side traffic alert. You've probably heard once or twice or 6 times before. The westbound side of the downtown tunnel is closed again this weekend. That's the side heading from Norfolk to Portsmouth. Chopper 10 got this video last week just after crews closed the tunnel. If you need to get to Portsmouth from Norfolk this weekend, you'll want to take one of the alternates. Try the Midtown Tunnel, the High-Rise Bridge, or the Jordan Bridge, but remember the Jordan has a toll. You can also expect some delays at the James River Bridge. Crews are installing a new grid deck to improve traction. 10 Your Side first reported on the problem back in July after a Smithfield woman died when her car slid on the wet surface and crashed. We reported on a 3-month study soon after that. It found a sharp increase in crashes during rainy weather. The work will be going on at the James River Bridge until November, so you can anticipate some lane closures. Another budget battle in Washington. Congress and the president are facing another spending crisis and another fight over health care reform. House Republicans passed a budget that would effectively kill Obamacare. That is expected to be rejected this coming week by Senate Democrats. President Obama is telling lawmakers to put aside their differences and pass a budget. An agreement must be reached in 9 days or the government could shut down.
This legislation is in the Senate, and it is now, the ball is in Harry Reid's court to keep this government open.
They want to shut the government down and force the president to stop his health care bill.
The Senate may strip out the part of the bill that defunds Obamacare, then bounce the bill back to the House. Meanwhile, the clock is ticking down to that October 1st deadline. In news across the nation tonight, torrential rains across Texas led to flooding last night, and it continued early today. You can see how fast rising water from a nearby bayou nearly submerged cars parked at a Houston hotel. The National Weather Service said 3 to 5 inches fell in this area in a very short time frame. You can imagine several highways and side streets also impassable, and people at the hotel were shocked to find out what happened to their cars.
Now, your Super for 10 forecast with meteorologist Tiffany Savona.
That has to be a bad feeling. You walk outside and then you see your car underwater.
Right, and typically if you stay at a hotel, you're usually not from the area, so
Right.
what a surprise there.